Hello folks, how are we doing? It's RedFellas on a Monday night. Only 24 hours late as the chat was saying, but yeah, listen, we're here. Unfortunately, yesterday a few things happened and we just couldn't get the show going. But listen, that's how much we want to get, so much to break down. We had to do it a day later, and it's the Monday Night Club tonight. I'm joined by Cav at the moment. Keith is on his way, so we're getting there. But Cav, firstly, mate, how are you doing? How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. A day late. Some people are saying we're doing a navigator. Like people are saying availability
not that late,
is
mate.
the
Not
best.
that late.
It's the best ability right now. Availability is passing us by. But yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good. Looking forward to actually finally being able to do a review of the game and some of the other games that have slightly affected people's views as to what we maybe can achieve at the end of the season. So I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, hopefully Keith's on his way.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think, as you say, it's kind of worked out in a good way because if we'd had the show yesterday, we'd have missed a bit of the recent developments because obviously United game was on as would be live. So it's kind of worked out for the best in that way. We can fully break down, the Champions League chances and if we're still on the fence or if we're,
it's like we play. It all works out in the end, guys. So
yeah.
I know this is football carnage. It's not the kind of carnage you wanted, but calmer. Everyone's saying in chat, calmer. We're here. We'll go through it. It's fine.
Yeah, no, I know. And listen, I appreciate that, Nebex. I mean, Sundays ain't the same. Listen, all the panel as well, we love it because usually the majority of this season it's been a therapy session, but it is stuck in the routine and you want to do it. But listen, bank holiday today as well. So it was good to get something planned in for tonight. And we'll do that. But just before we do, just firstly, Cav, what I was going to say is we'll break down the game, but how's your week been actually building up to that game? How was the past week for yourself?
Yeah, no, I've been good. I've had a good week. Busy with work, but I'm feeling good. And I don't know, maybe that coincides with Liverpool winning 5 games on the bounce. I don't know, but I certainly feel better now watching football. Being involved with the podcast on social media, anything to do with football now just suddenly feels a lot better now. Liverpool are winning games because you know what it's like the season we've just had. You go on Twitter and it's doom and gloom, and everybody's upset about something. Whereby now it's a lot more positive, and I think that filters into your lives. We know how much this club means to people and how much it can control our emotions. And hey, when you're winning games, everything just feels so much better. So that's certainly been the case for me this week. How are you though, mate? You keeping well?
Yeah, mate, I think I've disassociated a while ago, to be honest, Cal.
No, you need to come back in. It's all good over here now. You need to come back in, Conroy.
I know. It has been a good week, to be honest. It's like we'll speak about the game, but just getting through the results is very much a results based now. Which, you know what, if we'd had that mentality or that ability during the season, we may have been in a different spot right now. But yeah, I get what you mean, mate. It does improve the mood. But a long time ago, I had to disassociate because you're getting far too negative for a Monday morning, and it's just that was not productive. But yeah, just as, before we go into that, because that's a good question, Cav. But just before I forget, remember, RedFellas is sponsored by futcard.com. The code, you get a 15% discount with the code RedFellas. You can see at the bottom of the screen there. It should be there. I can't see our screen right now, but it should be. If Cav can help me out, back me up there, it should be. But yeah, if you follow the link here, you've got some great stuff here. You can customize your own FUT cards. See some of the examples there. You've got Messi, which is a brilliant one. And if you scroll down as well, you can customize it to specifics to like friends, family. Some great designs there, as well as the illustrated art they have. I think at the top there they had the Thierry Henry one or the Darwin Nunez. Some great designs. So if you go futcard.com, you get 15% discount with the code RedFellas. Additionally, as well, if you've got any questions, just go down to the chat with us. And if you click on that there, there'll be someone who can reply to you and answer any questions you've got. So yeah, futcard.com, brilliant sponsor. Go and check it out. So yeah, get that out of the way. Just before we don't forget, because we've done that a few times, just halfway through, we need to do that. But yeah, great design, so go and check it out. Personally, what would your FUT card be right now if you had to choose, Cav? Just doesn't have to be a Liverpool player, could be any player.
No, mine probably would be. I'm so happy Luis Diaz is back, just brings that flavour to Liverpool again, that flair, and that all the skills and everything. So yeah, I'd get a Luis Diaz one and I'd make it as colourful as possible, because that's what that guy brings to Liverpool. He brings that colour and that life. So that's probably what I would go for. And then obviously I get one of myself and just max out the stats on everything, obviously.
Yeah, no, that'd be good. I think we should maybe try that before the end of the season. You know, like get one like that just based on, because in a charity football match, if we ever get a football match or a game of five-a-sides, we should do something like that. It'd be quite good. Get a little picture before it. But the Diaz one's good. I think for me right now, we've got to be honest. If it's a Liverpool player as of late, you're going for Jota or Salah. I mean, I think we kind of normalise Salah's goal scoring ability, but Jota the Slaughter, I'd say he's definitely up there.
Get the Jota one with him sitting down playing the PlayStation. That'd be quality. That is a quality one.
Yeah. You wonder how it must be weird to be that good at both and then also play with as yourself and score with yourself.
Yeah, I think the players get like their own player on Ultimate Team, and it's like maxed out stats as well. That'd be cool.
Yeah, it'd be good. It'd be good. But anyway, listen, nice little start there. I enjoyed that. But we'll get into obviously not yesterday, Saturday, the game 5:30 kickoff. What was your thoughts just before the game, Cav? I'll bring the lineups in now, but what were you thinking? Were you feeling confident going into the game, or are you a bit on the fence?
No, I was feeling confident because Liverpool have seemingly, since we've tried this new system, have built up some confidence off the back of getting some good results. But more importantly, having controlling games, not for the entirety of the game, but making sure that we're in the game. We've seen way too much this season. Liverpool concede the first goal, and it feels like we've got a mountain to climb to even get back into securing a draw and a point, let alone win. So I like the fact that Liverpool are now on the ball more. They're controlling the opposition a bit more, and seemingly that means we can sort of build into games and let the more offensive players go and play. So I'm feeling more confident because of that. Of course, then the game will go how it will go, and you have to take the chances when they're presented and all these things. But I feel like now Liverpool are back at a place whereby they can compete in every game, which should always be the standard, but it's not quite been for large portions of this season. So I acknowledged kind of what Brentford would bring. It's not an easy game. They can mix up their kind of formation. They can go 5 at the back, 4 at the back. They can flood the midfield. They've got 2 good players up top. They can play on the ground, and in transition, they can be quite quick, but they can also be a threat from set pieces. But I just felt being at home as well, and the sort of little run that we're on, that we would sort of overcome them. So I was wary, but quite confident going into the game. But what do you think? Was you the same, or was you a bit worried? Because some fans were worried. Some fans were worried about Brentford and what they beat us already this season quite comfortably, didn't they?
I think the thing is about Brentford, as you say, it's their I'll just share the screen now. You see that okay, Kev?
It's just going on. Yeah.
So, I mean, you can see with Brentford their adaptability for not just us. You've seen it for our game. You know, the 3-1 victory. You could see they're great at doing that, especially set pieces. But I think it's unfair. You shouldn't label them a set piece team. I was listening to an article or a podcast the other day, and I think you have to make that clear. Like, I feel like it actually reminds me of when Bournemouth first came up. They tried to look at what extra edge they could get. So it wasn't just like a long ball in the box. They tried to get short runners to create space, to play a ball at the edge of the box. I think Brentford really look at that as well. But it's also in there. It's not just that. They're very good at that section, but they're good at lots of things as well. I think on their budget as well, I think Thomas Frank's done an unbelievable job. I think even the recruitment's very good. They seem to get players that fit, and obviously Premier League players, but they fit in the system very well. So I think your point's really good in that. They can always cause you problems. And I feel like that's the biggest worry. And also, when you've got a striker who can finish, Ivan Toney, you know, if they get a chance, it's a good chance they can score as well. So I wouldn't say the Nottingham Forest game, I thought we could just grunt and bear it and get through the game, even if, as it worked out, we didn't play that well. But I felt this one might be quite tricky. A low-scoring game is what I thought it would be. I know it's easy for me to say that now, but I didn't think it was going to be like a 4-1 game. I thought it was going to be quite tight.
Yeah,
and ultimately that's what happened. But I think your kind of overview of it is how I felt as well. But when it comes to the lineups, what was your thoughts on that? Did you feel that's kind of where we're going to go, or is there maybe a certain Dutchman that surprised you with his positioning before the game started?
Yeah, well, that's the most notable change really in this lineup. Gakpo coming in for Henderson. It's something that was sort of suggested amongst sort of the fans when he first came in, and after his first few games, was like, oh, could he possibly do a number 8 position, be a bit deeper and help out in the midfield area more than the sort of forward line. And I think that's sort of judged on his sort of technical ability, his close control. He's a strong boy. We've seen him receive the ball, turn defenders, and drive into space. And whilst having the sort of cover of Fabinho, who hasn't been great this season, but has improved slightly of late, and having Trent in there, who's also a bit of a controller and the second part of the pivot. And then the Jones, who does a lot of work sort of defensively, what have you as well. You could maybe think you could afford to put Gakpo in that area. But I think the main reason he's in there was actually because of his height. We sort of know that a big threat of Brentford is from set pieces. And whilst Henderson is a tall man himself, I would say that Gakpo is probably better aerially than Henderson. And Elliott's obviously not too tall. Thiago's out, and that don't leave you with a whole lot of options. So I think he was put in there just to assist in both boxes when it comes to set pieces. So it was worth seeing. And then obviously that kind of then has a ripple effect, because if he's not occupying the number 9 position, someone else has got to go in there. And this sort of puts in Jota. I actually think it was more Nunez that was up centrally, but it presented an opportunity for him, which I think is probably not deserved based on his substitute performances, because I don't think he's been great when he's come on, in my opinion. But he deserves some minutes to try and get used to this system and work his way back into the side. A lot of fans are obviously really excited about what Nunez brings, and for large portions of this season, he's been the guy that we've kind of turned to and thought, well, if we're going to score a goal, it will come from him. So he deserves that chance to be back in there. But that also meant that Diaz drops to the bench, and that's probably just easing him back in. So a few changes, understandable, and it was quite exciting. I don't know if you shared the excitement with me, Conroy, but it was quite exciting thinking, oh, technically got 4 forwards on the pitch here, while still having Trent in behind them. So maybe this could go a bit crazy. But what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point, mate. To be honest, every time I think that's going to work, I think it's maybe only worked a handful of times under Klopp. I think I always relate to the Man City at the Etihad, which is probably not a good example because it is Man City at the Etihad. And we drew that game 1-1, so it wasn't the worst result. But, I felt, to me, I've said before, I think we discussed this last week, I think his football intelligence is right up there, Gakpo. Mm-hmm. So if anyone could come in and do a job there, it's probably him. I trust him to follow tactics and where to be, and like just having that intelligence and football IQ more than any of our other forwards in that position. And I think his adaptability, he's already adaptable, but that just shows you feel he could do a job there, and I wouldn't feel the others could. I feel like there'd be a liability, if you know what I mean.
He's the one at the forward line. Yeah, he's the only one at the forward line you would possibly drop into the midfield. Yeah, you're right.
Just think, because you can just, especially when he's dropped deep in the kind of false 9 position, he's able to pass on and hold it up. And I'm not saying you're always doing it in midfield, but he understands where to be on a pitch more than I think anyway. That's when I watch him. You get that feeling off him that when you watch him, he knows where to be. He understands different positions quite well. Now, don't get me wrong, playing anyone in the front line and playing a centre mid is slightly different. However, I was okay with him, and obviously Klopp's seen enough to feel he could do the job. And I think your point about the height is really interesting, actually, Cav, because I'm going to put the cat amongst the pigeons right now. But do you think there's similarities to, if you watched the Manchester United game yesterday when Weghorst played in the number 10 position, and that got heavily criticised? But do you think there were similarities in that, because West Ham, again, quite a big team, especially for set pieces, I think that was one of Ten Hag's faults. So it's just interesting that I don't want to spend too much time in that, but it's funny because it's funny how slight differences when you're reviewing games. But I thought they had a similar approach, to be honest. But obviously ours worked out and theirs didn't.
It's something, I think that is probably one of the reasons why Weghorst was in. I mean, I'm biased, but I don't think it's for his footballing ability that he's in.
No,
and United fans can tell me he's great at pressing and this and that, but yeah, I don't think he's.
Well, probably his hold up is decent, isn't it, and stuff. So like, if you were playing maybe Rashford off him, that would make sense. But I think primarily it's for his height for set pieces.
I think sometimes we as football fans, we want to sort of. We don't want to accept that is a thing, height and set pieces and what have you, because we want to just think that we're such the better team that we can just control the game and play the football that we want to play and play it on the ground, that it doesn't matter how high, how tall people are. We control the ball, we play it the right way, and we control the game. But actually it only takes a handful of sort of set pieces, corners or what have you, to then really recognize, oh damn, we're getting outdone here in the air, and they can lead directly to goals. And it's something that Klopp's done quite often in the past, and he will come out sort of post-match and sort of justify his selection because of, oh yeah, I needed it in because of the height and the threat from the opposition. So we'll come on to the game, and I would say not that it's a masterstroke, but it was probably a good decision because of the amount of set pieces that Brentford ended up having. And didn't score from, by the way. So maybe that played a part. And obviously Nunez coming in as well, obviously adds height as well. So maybe there was a bit of thinking the same with him.
Yeah, and I think it's a very good point, Cav. I'm going to touch on it in a sec. But just to introduce Steve, thanks for coming on, Steve. How are you doing? You all right?
I'm good, mate. I'm good, yeah. Yeah, all well, mate. Thank you. You two boys well?
Yeah.
Good, Steve. Good to see you, mate.
We're optimistic Mondays today. We're doing good. But Steve, just not to put you right in it, because I know you're still getting set up. But obviously we're just finishing off the lineups right now for the game yesterday. Just a quick overview from yourself. What was your thoughts on the game? How did you feel about it? About the lineups. How did you feel going into the game?
I've got to be honest. I was surprised that Nunez started. But then you can't play Diaz 3 games in a week after 6 months out injured. The Gakpo thing in midfield was a surprise, but it was very much kind of one thing when we were in possession and one thing when we were out of possession. So I could see how we could quickly turn into a 4-2-3-1 when we're on the ball and go back to a slightly more resilient 4-3-3 off the ball. There's so much control of the game. He could pretty much pick and choose what he wanted to do anyway. So, yeah. Nunez coming in surprised me, but Diaz hasn't got 3 games in a week in him at the moment because he's still building up his fitness and strengthening and conditioning. So no great surprises. Obviously Henderson in the press conference and conversations around him having a scan. I was surprised he made the squad. Never mind got on as a sub, to be honest with you. So I think sometimes we have to pick who's available. I mean, there's a lot of games coming in thick and fast at the moment. So there it is, mate. I think it was to be expected. Some changes, to be honest with you.
And that's fair enough. I think that's pretty good analysis, to be honest. But and obviously, like buses, Steve came on and Keith followed right behind. Keith, how are we doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Just like London buses.
That's it.
It's been tough to drive a London bus this weekend with the King's coronation. So obviously, King Charles invited me round for a few sherries, which is why I'm late. So I apologise, but
and you went in your cap.
I went in my cap. I made sure I wore the badge.
It's cracking jacket. That.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, all good, man. All good. Nice.
Great. Listen, well, I think we've covered the lineup there, so I'll just stop sharing so we can all get on the screen. But yeah, glad we're all doing well. So on that, obviously the lineup, we're feeling confident going into the game. Me and Cav kind of discussed the optimism we had, which has not been that consistent this year, but we'll take it. And Cav was very perky when we started as well, so that's a great thing looking at that. But we go into, and I'm laughing because last week we broke down the Spurs game, and that was a full show. It was breaking down the instances and what happened, incidents. Probably won't spend as much time on that today, guys. I'm going to be honest. But Keith, because you just came in, I think the first thing to really talk about in the game, thinking about it there, and I've looked at it earlier, was how we started the game for 10 minutes. What was your thoughts on that, Keith? You feeling we'd get the job done in that, or were you slightly worried?
So I I thought we started the game in contrast to how we started it away at Brentford's Community Stadium, aka the new Griffin Park, which I like to call it. Brentford's always a weird one for me because I grew up like round down the roads. Used to hang around in Brentford. Like Brentford were literally just a team that like if you went to school within the catchment area of Brentford, you were like a Brentford B. So you were part of a little academy thing. Like I have a certificate where they teach you how to be a referee, and that was part of the Brentford Bees. I actually played football. We played the high school final against Norfolk High School at Griffin Park before they shut that down. I played on that. We won the league 3-2. So Brentford's a weird one for me because I never thought they'd be anything. And now all of a sudden, they're this team where we're going into it at Anfield thinking, wow, like just like they bullied us in the first game. So when I first started, I was thinking to myself, okay, we actually look up for the fight. Like I think Konate goes up for a header with Tony in like the first couple of minutes, but he aggressively goes up for that header. He doesn't necessarily win the header, but Tony doesn't win the header either. We're going in for challenges. Obviously, like we're putting our foot in, and we know that Brentford, as Ibu said in the tunnel, if you've seen the clip, they live for free kicks and they live for set pieces. Like their whole game plan is set pieces, right? It's like Sam Allardyce's.
I disagree with that, Keith. But fair, I'll let you continue.
Nah, come on. Their goalkeeper takes free kicks if the ball is in their half. Yeah, like they are a very direct. I was about to say that's a bad thing, but they're a very direct team. So no,
I think they've got more about them than just that. Like that's all I'm saying.
When the ball drops, yes, yeah. When they get the ball, they don't care about getting the ball 10 to 20 yards up the pitch by passing it to each other 9 times out of 10. Once they're in the ball, I agree. They do their build-up play is quite good once they're in.
Got some technically decent players, I think, in the final third. But I get what you're saying.
Right? They don't care. So what I was trying to say is that obviously when it started, I liked that we were up for the fight. And that is all I needed to see, that we were up for going in for those challenges, going after those second balls, like putting Tony under significant pressure, like being right up their backsides. And I felt like I could get a sense of that in the first the way the game started. And for that gave me a little bit of confidence that actually, do you know what? We're not going to get rattled by these guys. If they had come to Anfield maybe 5 weeks earlier, it may have been a completely different story. So that gave me a lot of confidence in the start of the game.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. I think, mate, you know what? Yeah, you want to be up for the fight because I think you're seeing that. I think Steve's Wi-Fi is playing up there. I'm just checking that now. I think he'll come back when he comes back. So yeah, no, absolutely. And then I think that's a really good point, though, because when you're going in these games as well, at times this season you've seen, Keith, that we've not been up for the fight, and ultimately teams have overran us. I can bring up the stats about genuinely being overworked in certain games. And with that in mind, Cav, see when we do, because ultimately the goal comes quite early, which I don't have the stats in front of me, but I feel like it's not happened that often this season to get a comfort that early. But 13th minute is the first goal, and I'll give you that the luxury of discussing that. Obviously, explain what happens and what was your feelings of how good a goal that was at the time.
Well, yeah, I'll talk about a goal. Just before I do, just to sort of back up Keith's point, in the first 5 minutes, Van Dijk went right through the back of Onyeka. And you know what? As soon as it happens, I was like, Virgil, what are you doing? This ain't Virgil. And then I went, wait, hold on. That's what I've been asking for all season. I've been asking for someone not to go and fucking get into somebody and clatter someone and let them know you don't turn up and just take 3 points at Anfield. So I was pleased. And Tony was hobbling around for a little bit. And it was a bit like, yeah, look, you ain't going to turn up and just bully us. No, this is different now, you know. So I think Keith makes a great point with that because it sets the tone and that mindset of, putting it into Brentford's minds that they're going to be up for a battle. But yeah, we built from there. Like you said, we were in the game. Liverpool, although last time out against Tottenham at home, we started really, really quickly. Actually, since we've kind of made this stylistic change, what we've tried to do, I think, is just have a bit more control. Start the game, yes, probe and try and attack, but actually just retain the ball, keep the ball, and make sure you don't concede first. So I'm quite comfortable, as much as I would like Liverpool to come flying out the box and score straight away. I'm quite comfortable with that from knowing where we've been this season, and ultimately that's why it's put us in 5th spot at the minute. And it's building blocks, isn't it? But we do get the goal relatively early, 13th minute, I think. Salah picks up on the right side. Brentford have got men back. You know, watch the goal back and you look at the steals and what have you. There's plenty of Brentford men in the box and around the box. But Salah plays it inside, which he likes to do. But it goes to Fabinho, and Fabinho then dinks one towards the back stick, which was a really nicely weighted pass into Virgil, who then heads it down to find the man who kind of started the attack in Salah, who takes a couple of touches. I thought he could have maybe put it in first time, but always round. He controls it, gives the goalkeeper a little bit of a chance to sort of get there, but ultimately just smashes it into the roof of the net. And I think the thing for me that I would like to highlight from that goal is the movement of Salah and the determination. And it's so crazy when we talk about this guy and people say, yes, he scores loads of goals, but he's not a great goal scorer. He's not a clinical finisher. But the one thing he does have is that determination to get into the box and get into areas where he can score goals. He could have quite easily played that ball into Fabinho and just coasted in. But if you watch him, he's on the move and he's moving at pace. And that's why he's there and the defenders for Brentford aren't. So that's a credit to him. And that's his 9th consecutive goal at Anfield, which I think that's the first time it's been done by anybody, let alone in the league, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. And made him our 5th joint all-time goal scorer level with Steven Gerrard. So a really, really good goal from him and how it come about and how he made it and finished it, but also, you know, stats and how it will go down in history. It's an incredible achievement from him and important in the game to just get that first goal. So, yeah, brilliant from him. Brilliant team goal as well. Fabinho and Virgil definitely played their part in it.
No, I think that's capped that off very well, Cav. I think it's his 100th goal at Anfield as well. I'm sure that's the case. I may be wrong. I've maybe heard that as well the other day.
Yeah, it could be actually, yeah.
Yeah, so that's you know, it's, as I say, we can't talk enough about, you know, you mentioned how important he's been. There will be conversations come when he retires, to be honest, of where he ranks when it comes to players for Liverpool.
Yeah.
But Steve, on that, on Mo Salah as well, in general, I've seen quite a few things recently in certain conversations. Do you think Mo gets the credit he should? Oh, that's maybe a loaded question. Obviously, that's another landmark he's made for us and he's scored. What's your overall thoughts? Do you think he should be praised more by what he's done in the Premier League, or do you think it's adequate what he gets spoken about, the way he gets spoken about?
We might not have rival fans talk about him in the way that they should until his career is done at Liverpool. They kind of don't give the ground and have the conversation about how good he is, because that's perceived to be the wrong thing to do. But the reality is, in 3, 4, 5 years' time, when he's no longer playing in the Premier League, and people like us sit down and do, what's the Premier League 11? You look at that now, Cristiano Ronaldo, for some reason, for a short spell at Manchester United, seems to appear in there because I think about his whole career. Well, his whole career was at Real Madrid, essentially. Mo Salah's in the conversation for the best Premier League 11 of all time. He's in the conversation for the top 5 Liverpool players of all time. As long as our fans recognise that, I'm okay with that. I don't need Arsenal fans, United fans, and so on and so forth to come out and, you know, pin their colours to his mast. As long as we love him, that's all that counts. That's what football's about. It's tribal rivalry, isn't it? It's always going to be like that. Do you remember the conversation a couple of years ago where people thought Mane could be the most important player in the team? Year in, year out, Mo Salah delivers 20, 30 goals, 40 GA every single season. That conversation's been put to bed. It's gone, finished with absolute nonsense. Mo Salah is rightfully up there with the best Liverpool players of all time. I don't think we should gauge a football fan's perspective from what goes on in Twitter, to be honest with you, because there's enough clickbait people out there that say what they say just to get reaction. This fella's absolutely special. ridiculous numbers in what has become a very technical game with systems that Ian Rush didn't play against systems. Ian Rush played against back fours and played on the shoulder of centre backs. They didn't have the same type of tactical influences in the game that they're now. Mo Salah is an icon of Liverpool Football Club. He will be in the top 4 or 5 players. If he wins a couple more trophies along the way, then I see him not challenging Gerrard and Dalglish, but not millions of miles away either. So I think as long as us four and all of our friends and all the Liverpool fans continue to sing his name and love him the way that we do, that should be good enough for him, and it's certainly good enough for me.
See, I just want to add on to that. What I've always loved about Salah is it was the first time, probably what I can remember, where we had our best player also be our mouthpiece as well. You know, like it really stands to reason that he is an ambassador of Liverpool Football Club. He picks up the microphone after games, and he's always giving post-match interviews. You know, he's always on the front line. You know, you can almost tell that deep down he would, you know, maybe in the dressing room and maybe amongst players, he's probably not seen necessarily as a leader. But I always felt that he was here for the long term because he's proud to be playing for Liverpool, right? He's proud to represent the club. He's proud to represent us in outside of football means. And that's so special because, you know, for so many years, our best players maybe were a little bit maybe shy from the camera. Maybe it was always about Steven Gerrard in my era anyway. And, you know, he gives back so much more than just the goals and just the performances. He endears himself and he's genuinely proud to represent Liverpool. He believes, like, his attitude and his determination and his belief that Liverpool Football Club should be amongst the best in the world, and anything less than that is not worth talking about really unless we get to there, is admirable. And that's the type of players that you want in your club. And, you know, we take that for granted. You know, there's many high quality, high paid players who are put on a pedestal as the best in the world, but never actually bring that same energy when it comes to representing the crest for their respective clubs. And we should be so, like, you know, fortunate that our best player is also a great representation of our club outside of football.
That's nothing that's fair, to be honest, Keith. I think it's an interesting one as well, because I think with the increase in social media, or just all media, to be honest, like trying to get the insight of anything from football, you know, in the change rooms, which fortunately is not happening with us, but there's so much attention on it now, so it is quite fitting that your player who's mostly in the headlines for scoring or performances, it's like for him to also take that mantle on. I think that's a really good point. But with that being said, Keith, I'll come back to you because it's actually your turn as well. On the game, we've also spoke about the goal, Salah, and you've added about that. But it's the next chance I've got written down. We're not going to spend too long on it because there wasn't that many instances, as I said earlier. You kind of missed Cav touching on Nunez at the start. Well, the next instance in the game is Trent, who we've spoke about him a lot recently. We could probably do a full segment on his position and how he's played there and the improvement in that and the effect on the team, but probably not got enough time today. But we'll just take it that we'll add to what we said recently. He's been brilliant, and we can even touch on that at the end. But he plays another sublime pass to Darwin. That's the really next major moment in the game. And to be honest, it's a great chance for the striker, doesn't connect with it. What was your thoughts in that moment, Keith? And what's been your thoughts on Darwin maybe in the last couple of matches as well? Kind of two questions there.
So, you know, first of all, I believe that sequence of play, you know, next season will bag Darwin. Like, Darwin Nunez sounds like he needs to miss 50 chances to score 20 Premier League goals. And if that's the case, he's going to get 50 chances next season with that ball. Trent Alexander-Arnold has played that pass now, I think, at least 3 matches. And one of them actually came off, and Nunez took it down and finishes it off against Leeds. Nunez's movement, and this is the thing that I think we need to focus on, is not necessarily the chance that he misses. And yes, it is a bit of a bad miss, right? He's through on goal, you know, strike of his quality, and it should be burying that in the back of the net. But the movement that he makes, he is on the left-hand side. He's being marked by the right back, right? By the time Trent has played that ball, he has already made that that run in between the right back and the right centre back into no man's land, and he is the best, one of the best in the world at making that run. Right, similarly to Haaland. Haaland is also the best in the world at making that run, and Haaland is a clinical finisher. But there are very, very, very few forwards in world football today that are making those runs off the wing, off the wide defender, through the centre, and being picked up into no man's land and beating the offside trap. That's another very important aspect of here. For example, Mo Salah. Could we ever see Mo Salah making those type of runs? Mo Salah does so many things so well, but that's not his game, and that's not something he does. We could never expect that from him because, as I said, very few players make that movement. So the pros of it is that Nunez continues to make such high quality movement in and around defenders that allows us to be a lot more direct. Now we've moved Trent Alexander-Arnold into a more inverted wing-back position. It allows Trent to make those passes in a lot more dangerous positions. He is already doing it now in a new position that we've only just started training in. Could you imagine what's going to happen once the telepathy is there? You look at Kevin De Bruyne and Haaland. Kevin De Bruyne gets to play in the central position for the position that he's in. It took them to a little bit of time to kind of get it right, but now Kevin De Bruyne knows exactly when to play that passes, and City are more direct than they've ever been before. Trent has only just started playing this position 5-6 games ago, and he's already found Nunez 3 times with that pass, and one of them's turned into a goal. So as much as I can understand people's frustrations because it's a lot of chances that he missed, and you'd argue that if he finished half of those chances, he would be in the top 5 goal scorers this season, and 10 more goals, and all of a sudden we're sitting pretty in the top 4. But we have to add to the fact that you brought in a player during a chaotic season where there were systems that we wanted to play that we didn't play. We basically reverted back to what we were used to, and it didn't fit Darwin Nunez at all, how Liverpool used to play. Now we're building something that I believe fits his system a lot more because it puts our best passer of the ball into more central areas and someone that can see the pass for a striker of his ability, because Trent was never going to play those passes from right back, maybe once every so often, but he was never going to do it from there. Now he's in that more central position. Once they get it and once they click, I have no doubt that Nunez next season will be scoring a lot of goals. He'll be more settled, he'll be more confident, and he'll understand the people around him more. 15 goals and assists this season. Some big goals. Remember, we're 3 points behind Newcastle. Arguably, those 3 points he won himself against West Ham when we beat them 1-0 in a game where that was very, very tight at Anfield earlier this season. He has had an impact in moments in our season. Could he do better? Absolutely. But one thing that I would say to Liverpool fans, his price tag, nobody really knows what his price tag is. Everybody has. When it's rival fans, they want to tell you he's a £100 million player. When it's like somebody else, they'll tell you it's 80 million, 90 million, 60 million. No one knows how much we've truly paid for him. The reality is we paid about 65 million for him and add-ons. Let's be honest, those add-ons have not been hit this season, right? So for a player going in that market, for a forward player, for the ability and what he's brought to the table and what he's still to bring, I still believe that it's a very, very good piece of business. And we just have to be patient, let him settle in as he has done. And I think this new system will get the best out of him next season.
Yeah, I hear you, Keith. Cav, we'll not spend too long on this, but just to get, I don't think we spoke on, I know you mentioned it earlier, so just because Keith kind of went in depth, and I think very good points. What I would just add before Cav can get his take on Nunez is he's going to have to fight for his position because it's not going to be guaranteed. Because the one thing I'd say, Keith, is I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I think the thing with Nunez is he's always going to be frustrating, but when he plays for a Liverpool team who creates so many chances, he will be effective. But I don't think you're ever going to get this unbelievable finisher. I just think he's not tactically aware on it enough to be that, but I don't think you need to be perfectly honest, because you could get 50 chances in a Liverpool team. You won't get that if you're playing for a Brighton, or maybe a Brighton's a bad example, but teams like that. But ultimately, it's good to have, fighting for places. But Gakpo's came in and settled very quick in a chaotic season, in a team who've been in poor form. And then when you've got Diaz, who's a fan favourite, who lights the team up, it's going to be especially because where Nunez gets operated a lot, and I do understand it's not exactly the same position. And then when Jota comes in and has clutch moments, it's going to be a battle to get that place, which is only a good thing. But Cav, just quickly before we go on to the second half, what's your thoughts on Nunez recently?
So I'll go a bit further back than recently because I think it adds context. It's his first season, doesn't speak the language, new to the team, new to the environment, new to his teammates. So there is going to be a settling in period. We should always give a new player into a new club at least a season to figure things out, right? But during that season, as Keith's spoken about, there was a period whereby, more because we weren't playing well as a team, but also fair play to him, he was still bringing energy and stuff to the pitch, that actually we were going into games thinking, oh, damn, if Nunez isn't playing, I don't think we're scoring, and he took that on. And the more he played in that 4-3-3 system, I thought the more he improved. I thought actually his link up with his teammates was improving. His first touch was improving. And he seemed to just all around be getting the game a lot better. Whilst, yes, still missing chances. But I was at one point looking at his game and thinking, that's what you really need to change at this point in time, is get better on that conversion rate. Now the system's changed, players have come back, we're winning without him. Circumstances are a bit different. And how he actually plays the game is going to have to be slightly different again. He's going to have to relearn a system in the same year. And I think since he's been asked to do that, where his appearances have come off the bench, I haven't been too impressed. I give him that excuse. That's fine. I give him time. Liverpool are winning, so you can afford to do that. There's other players that can play in his position that are doing well, so that it makes it even easier. I just kind of hope that when he comes on, that he just does the basics better. I'd hope that he'd just be able to control the ball better, offer for the ball a bit better. And actually, when he's received the ball and he's driving, he looks too clumsy. And I think that's the area where I'm like, doesn't really matter if you don't know your teammates. Doesn't really matter if you don't know the language. The ball's at your feet. Just learn to keep it. And that. It don't matter where you play football. It's a beautiful pitch. I don't know how at this stage of the season there's not dark spots, brown spots all over the place. It's immaculate. It's well sprinkled. It's where the ball's the same size. You can make a run in the channel and keep the ball, turn around if you have to, and play it back to your teammates. And that's where I'm just like, there is a base level that you require from somebody, and I feel like he's missed an opportunity to just put in good substitute performances. So yeah, I've been a little bit disappointed, but I'm really behind him. I really, really believe that he's got amazing ability. He excels in his pace and his movement, and his reading and timing on the shoulder and getting into the box, as Keith brilliantly put. And I'm willing to stick by him and let it progress for all the reasons that Keith said. I'm excited by him. I just think that it needs time. It just needs time. And I don't know, because I'm not Mystic Meg, I don't have a ball, whether it would work out at Liverpool. But I firmly believe that he will have a good career somewhere. I think at some point in his footballing career, the penny will drop, a system will suit him, whether it's at Liverpool, I certainly hope it is, and he will explode and he'll be a great player. I just hope that he manages to find his way whilst Liverpool are still trying to find their way. But as long as we're winning games, we can afford that time for him, I believe. And like he's contributed next season, I think he'll contribute. Like he's contributed this season, I think he'll contribute next season. And look, he's a different player to what we've got as any of the forwards. So there'll be games that are more suited to him.
And that's a good thing, Cav. It's good to have variety. That's very important. And it's a squad game, as we constantly say. It's not 11 men anymore. And it's really important to have different types of threats, I feel, as well.
He really does divide opinions. He really, really does. And I think he's
probably
one of
them. He was always going to. Just the way he is.
I can't, unless you guys can think of an example, I can't think of a player that we've signed where people are so torn. Like, usually we're a bit like, we're not too sure. Don't think that's going to work out. That's a terrible signing. Or this person's great. But I think he really does split the fan base down the middle. It's crazy.
Jota at times, to be honest, mate. It's just because it's in a good mode right now. But at times people say, like a month ago, they were saying, would you sell Jota? So I think maybe not to that extent, but there's definitely examples. But I get what you're saying. But listen, that could be a show in the future in itself, especially the end of season rating. So that'll be interesting one. So stay tuned for that. But on the rest of the game, guys, a few instances second half. The Gagpo chance that I think, to be fair, is quite unlucky. Ball across the box, hits him and goes wide. People are saying he somehow missed, but personally, I feel it's hit him more. I think it's a little bit harsh. I think Jota slammed it across the goal. And then you've had Trent had a shot and a few other instances involving Salah. But overall, we get the result, we get the 1-0 win, get a clean sheet, Alisson's 100th clean sheet as well, which was excellent for me. I think, Steve, you mentioned this as well. He's up there as one of the best keepers, or if not the best keeper, for me, is the best keeper I've ever had. But we don't have to go into that today, but another massive achievement for him. And you could tell he was, when Brighton's disallowed goal as well, you seen his reaction. He's like, he's so annoyed, but got the clean sheet, got that achievement. So I think, you know what, he deserves that, because he has had some amazing performances this season as well. For being a turbulent season, he's had some big moments for us. So we get the result, it's there. And I'm just looking at time, we're 45 minutes in, we've got the result. So yes, we've got that in the bag. And then we put pressure on to the other top 4 rivals that evening. That evening. Or the following night. I'm thinking on Sunday. That's Saturday. On Sunday, West Ham play United and Newcastle play Arsenal at home. So see how I segued that in there? So just before we talk about that, big up to the panel and big up to the chat, but can you please smash the likes? Cav's much better at reminding himself to do that than me, but I have remembered there. So please smash the likes for us. It's much appreciated. So yeah, those 2 matches happen. And to be honest, I don't think it could have went any better. But Steve, I'll come to yourself. Obviously, those 2 results, it was 2 losses. Firstly, Newcastle losing 2-0 to Arsenal, where they missed a few chances, to be honest. It's always about moments, that game. And Odegaard, to be fair, stepped up when he needed to. And then Manchester United lost 1-0 to West Ham. 2 massive, potentially massive results for us. And we obviously got a result. Steve, what's your stance on the top 4 right now? I know we've discussed this a lot, but obviously this weekend there was quite a few favours for us that we didn't have in the past. So what's your thoughts at the moment on that?
I liken it to last season when we were 14 points behind City with the game in hand, and everyone I know said, keep winning, keep doing your thing, and something might happen above you where you get an opportunity to bridge the gap, close the gap, make sure you win your games. Manchester United are terrible at the moment, absolutely shocking. The next game for Liverpool, the next game for United is massive. If they don't win and we do, suddenly the real battle is on for 4th place between Liverpool and United. That's not including Newcastle, who've never really been in this position before. Remember Leicester and West Ham a couple of years ago were quite close to top 4 and they both fell away. You don't know what Newcastle are going to do, so top 4 battle is very much on. We're absolutely in the race for it. It's unbelievable to think it's gone from where it was to where it is. If we finish the season with 3 more wins and get to 71 points, there's not much more we can do. United and Newcastle have got pressure on them now from Liverpool. We've been there before and we've done it. So absolutely it's on.
Yeah. And listen, I think this is such a big question that I'm going to go straight to Keith and Cav as well. I feel like we need to get both your takes on it. And Keith, you obviously, I don't think we've caught you on this one. What's your thoughts? I know you're the eternal optimist, but where's your head at now?
Yeah, I mean, if you clip all my views over the season, you would have seen just a decline of a man, like just slowly breaking. You know what I mean? Like I started the season saying that, we go again, Champions League, Premier League, and then we get to Christmas and I'm like, geez, what have we done? And then, at one stage we were just here, I remember there was one point, it always stuck with me, Conroy. It always stuck with me when you were like, you don't see what the pattern of play is, or you don't see what we're doing. Like, what are we doing? Like, we can't see it on the pitch. It doesn't really look like we have a plan. It doesn't really look like we have anything to go by. And so, the biggest take I can take if we don't get Champions League football, but anyway, is just, the fact that Jurgen Klopp has proven to all of us, and I think to a lot of pundits and fans in this league, that this idea that he could, after 7 seasons, his teams just collapse and he doesn't have any way of changing things or coming up with solutions or building a new team or working with new players. He's proven that to absolutely not be the case. For what he's been able to achieve and be able to be in the running from when we were 12 points behind Manchester United to now being only 1 point, is quite remarkable. And it's one thing that gives me so much hope, because it clearly proves that the players still play for the manager, the group, the club. They all believe in the manager and his ability to create different formations, new formations, different systems, bringing new players, bleed them in. And it gives me real optimism that, you know, the next season, and he's been saying this a lot, the next season starts now. It started already. You know what I mean? Like you know, we need to win those next 3 games to go into the new season off the back of what would have been a 9 wins in a row, then go into preseason off the back of that euphoria, of the winning mentality, the winning ways, going out there, grinding results, winning games in the way that we've won against Brentford in this particular instance, winning ugly, winning pretty, scoring loads of goals, digging ourselves from a hole. All of this is experience of the now that will lead us in good stead for the following season. So I'm just happy that we've gotten this way and we've done it in this way, because we've clearly shown that, you know, if we go in and finish 9 wins, 9-8, to get 21 out of 21 points, that's title challenging form, right? And that for me gives me the indication that next season we will be able to go on the front foot. But, you know, we have been, I wouldn't say lucky. I would actually say the lucky thing that happened for the teams that are challenging for the top 4 is that Liverpool have been so bad, because the fact that we're still in this position, when you consider that Man United are supposed to be the new and improved Man United, who have spent £300 million on talent, we're right behind them. For Newcastle to have invested £100 million per transfer window and taken themselves to new heights, and we're just behind them. Right, Brighton, fair play to them. We're way ahead of Tottenham Hotspurs, who we were told were going to have the best season of their life. You know, all of these omens to me tells me that actually it's not that, you know, that, oh, okay, Liverpool are lucky to be here. Actually, it's the fact that Liverpool, with 1 or 2 more victories in our bag, we could have been long gone. So we are still very much under Jurgen Klopp, the team that we think we are. We've had a bad season, but I'm still a bit cautious. And the only reason I'm cautious about top 4 is because United play 3 of their last 4 games at home, and they have a very good home record. And the one away game they have is against Bournemouth, who have secured their status in the top flight. And I can't quite see Bournemouth getting a result in that game. So I actually think United may just pip us. But that Chelsea game, again, that last game is the last game of the season, Chelsea versus Man United at Old Trafford.
You know, I think it's the second last or last,
because there you have United have Fulham final game of the season. Mitrovic will be back.
Mitrovic will be back.
But to be honest, Fulham can, like, you don't even need Mitrovic. Like, Fulham can actually, as you've seen today, like, they can actually, even when they're not playing well, they've got players that can hurt teams. So you never know. Sometimes people keep telling me, Keith, I do agree with you, by the way, but people keep telling me the home thing, and I do get that, right? But I also sometimes feel like you can see that team implode with the pressure. And if you don't start well, people keep saying they need to lose. They could just draw a game, and then the pressure just increases massively. It's already on them now. For them to put themselves in this position from where they were, I think there's already pressure, and the camp looks all over the place, to be honest. It's not a harmonic team at the moment. You can tell there's divide, so who knows? But
sorry, I just want to say one last point. Pressure is what you're starting to see take its toll, because for Brighton to lose 5-1 against Everton this evening is a result of pressure.
Naive tactics today, thinking Everton couldn't counter-attack. That was poor tactics as well, absolutely. But I get what you're saying.
You feel it because Brighton's expectations are not. They're looking. They have 3 games in hand. You're looking at Champions League. That's pressure. Newcastle United, at the end of the day, they played at home against Arsenal. That is pressure, right?
That's probably the lowest on it, though, Keith, because you could maybe say you can lose that one. Because to be fair to Newcastle, they got battered by Aston Villa 3-0, then beat Everton 4-1, and then beat. Can't remember who they beat the last game, but they had 2 emphatic wins. So I do agree, like. But out of those 3, I feel like Newcastle have probably still got enough to secure it, just because United also lost. That's the way I see it. But I get what you're saying, mate. Even that game, that was like, if you watch that game, it seemed like that was more a moments game, because Odegaard scores right after. Then Arsenal, to be honest, that was probably their best away performance of the season. But you are right, pressure. I mean, do you really feel like those Man United players, Keith, I'll come back just to answer this one. Do you think they're confident right now going into those home games? I don't know if they are. I think they're nervous.
They're nervous, of course, because again, I think they're nervous. There's pressure. It's really going to be telling that, as I said before, it's the clubs that are playing against them. That's just if it was just players, if it was just teams that maybe had maybe Newcastle, that had more to play for, but Wolves had much to play for going into that game. Chelsea, half their squad's going to be sold. I mean, Chelsea have got pride to play for at the end of the day. But, you know, I don't know. As I said, I think they've got the right teams in the right moments at the right time. May just see him come over the line. But to your point, Conroy, pressure.
Yeah, it could be. And I think Harris, or if that's how you pronounce it, thanks very much for the super chat. I think United will still sadly get it. They're 3 home games and they have the best home form in the league this season. And you know what? I think logic, as Keith says, points to that. And Cav, do you agree with that super chat? Do you feel that they'll definitely get it? The one thing I would add, right, there's one thing I will say. See Chelsea on paper. See if you look at like João Felix and stuff like that. On paper, they should have enough to actually make that a game. But you just feel like under their management, their confidence right now, they won't do that. But that's the only thing I would say is on paper, that team have actually got players that you feel should hurt that defence, especially with the injuries they've got. But Cav, what do you think?
I think that Liverpool will do their what they need to do. I think they'll win their games. I wouldn't take Leicester lightly. I mean, they're getting battered. They got battered again tonight. I think the scoreline was 5-3 in the end. And they're not playing well. I think they've lost 21 games this season, but there's just something going away to the King Power I don't like. They've got all their clappers out. They love to sort of pull one over on Liverpool. Not really winning, but getting draws, and draws won't be good enough for us at this point. So I'm not taking these teams lightly who we've got remaining. I think it will still be tough, but I expect us to get through and win. The sad thing is just like that super chat says, is United, I think they will lose, but then you need them to drop points in another game. So 2 out of the sort of 4 they've got remaining, you need them to drop points in. And I'm just not too sure that happens, to be honest. Yes, the goals, they're struggling to come by. Rashford's dried up a little bit. But they get into good areas. They get shots away. And I watched the highlights of their loss to West Ham. I didn't see the game. And you should never go off highlights. But the build-up's not great. It's not particularly dynamic. It's not incisive or anything like that. But they get in and around the 18-yard box and they get shots away. But they're always just like a yard wide of the post. They're always just ballooned over or whatever. And you just think, if they just take one of them or whatever, that might be enough. So I don't know, in all honesty. I think my head's probably telling me that just because they've got to drop points in 2 games, that we might just narrowly miss out. And I'm going to hate myself for saying it, because if we get it, then I'm going to be the biggest hypocrite when I'm celebrating with you all. But
no, it's not at all, Cav, because ultimately, if Liverpool get it, it's because another team's done us a favour or they've failed. So it's not necessarily, obviously we've done well to put ourselves back in this position, but the table doesn't lie. We deserve to be where we are. So if you're going on what you've seen, then I get what you're saying, mate. But like,
I think out of the 2 teams, I mean, because there is a chance that Newcastle fall out of it and we get in there. But I think Newcastle, whilst they lost against Arsenal, I think they're still playing well. And I still think that they're doing well in their games, whereas United aren't. And they're just been getting results, even though they lost, the past 2, but they've been getting results whilst not playing well. And that's so you've got 2 sides that occupy that space that are in sort of different moments, and feeling slightly different towards it. But look, we've done incredibly well to put ourselves in this position now over these past 6 games. We've given ourselves a chance. I genuinely don't know.
It's going to be interesting.
The Newcastle ones, those games, that's an interesting one, right? Leeds away game, 12:30 at Ellen Road is going to be one to watch. I'm definitely putting BT Sport on for that bad boy. Brighton at St James's Park, Leicester potentially, obviously still fighting for. Brighton's still fighting for Europe. Leicester's still fighting for survival. And then obviously, as Chelsea, last game of the season at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea, listen, Lampard, you're a good manager. Don't let anybody.
No one's ever said that.
You're a great manager. You're a great man. Yeah? Don't let anybody tell you anything differently, man. You need these wins.
I think the thing, Keith, is I looked at this as well. I think the one thing I'd say about Newcastle is, see, when they've had a defeat, they've responded well, and because they've put themselves in a position that they can afford to lose one of those games and still get top 4. Because I think they're a game in hand and they're 4 points ahead of us, so they can actually lose one of those games and still make it. I think you're right, Keith. I feel like though it'll be interesting. It's weird because the Brighton one's looking probably better to them now than it did, because it'll be interesting to see how Brighton react, because if they play Arsenal during the week, I think the next one's Brighton versus Arsenal, and they lose again, that's 2 in the bounce. But it's funny how it's like it's a balance right now. Other teams, like, no one would have saw that coming today. Everton versus Brighton, and as we talk about that, John Page, thanks for the super chat. I've never been so thankful for Arsenal, West Ham, and Everton winning. But it's a great comment. But on John's point, like, I mean, we always say this league's unpredictable, right? But today was next level. That was, I mean, some of the defending was genuinely embarrassing by Brighton. I've got to be honest. Like, some of the spaces, it was literally like Everton could just run through them. I don't know what they were doing. Maybe massive complacency. But if that doesn't show you that this league, strange things can happen. And what I mean by that is, you know, guys, I'm not the most optimistic person. But what I would say is, United right now are all over the place when it comes to performances. They probably started well yesterday, and then they absolutely done nothing second half. They fell away with that game. West Ham probably should have won 2-3-0. All I'm saying is, if they play Wolves at home, Bournemouth away, and it doesn't go well the opening 20 minutes, or they go behind, as Keith said, stranger things have happened. That's all I would say. And bear in mind, they do not have to lose. If they lose against Chelsea, if they draw against Chelsea, it goes to the last game. I think if they draw a game and we win, like, that's it. Like, if you can take it to the last day, pressure can make diamonds, but it can also be absolutely catastrophic. So,
and
you never know.
Jurgen Klopp really is this is now the 3rd time that we could potentially take a top 4 chase into the final day, right? Because when Klopp first finished 4th, that was the final day. We had to beat Middlesbrough, I believe.
When Wijnaldum goal, wasn't it?
Wijnaldum goal, yeah. When we had the catastrophic season, and we still managed to end up finishing 3rd, that went to the last day of the season. So again, you know, we're like the Man City of top 4s when we are in a top 4 battle. We really do like to bring it into the last day of the season, and you know, again, we got to beat Leicester. Obviously, we got to do our job, but
absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy.
No, we're going to be doing.
Sorry, Kath, on you go.
I was just want to say, if we take it to the last day, we'll be doing that thing where we score, and then you'll be instantly like checking your phone, what else, and then you watch the players. And if they score, they'll be going to the away fans going, what's the result?
Yeah, but the thing about this, though, is like, if you can take it to last day, I think psychologically you're against a different beast when it comes to Manchester City. I feel like that's all I'm saying. If you'd said 2 months ago we take it to the last day, I would have said I'll bite your hand off, because even if we don't, and it sounds really bad, at least you feel, as Keith said, you're on a winning run. You can take some optimism going into the pre-season. You can get there. But Manchester United right now will be feeling, if we don't get this top 4, we're going backwards again. You know, I think Newcastle, you can argue like they can. I think they're probably ahead of schedule. They can word that in a way and work it that they're okay. If they can maybe keep it optimistic to go in. But Manchester United, the alarm bells would be ringing. So that's all I'm saying. I feel like if you go to the last day, Cav, they're not all Premier League winners, experienced players. You've obviously got Casemiro, but yeah, I'm not optimistic, and even I am thinking it could happen.
Yeah, wow. You made a good point earlier when you talk about United and some of the falling out they have in the camp and stuff, and you can just see, you know, results not going their way. Bruno sort of throwing his arms in the air and getting annoyed at everybody, and it's just not helpful, is it? Whereas Liverpool right now, yes, we haven't got the points on the board that we would like, but we have a together squad, and we're pushing in the right direction.
Harmony. Everyone's in it together. You know, you'll live, you'll win, you'll lose together, but it's the harmony. And I feel like, listen, logically, I agree with you guys, but do you know what? There's just a little opening right now, and that's all we need, as we've seen. I don't know, this club. Sometimes there's no words, and that's good and bad. You know what I mean? When it comes to some performances this season, but we'll see. It's going to be very interesting. Today, that result with Everton, I think that's a really good point to say for John's super chat. You never know. You never know. And even the teams who have got nothing to play for, Keith, Wolves' last game of the season, I think scored in 30 seconds in, or was 2 minutes into the game, because sometimes people just assume these teams are going to lay down. That doesn't always work that way. Sometimes they want to be the villain of the party, getting the headlines.
Listen, if Matthias Nunez wants that move, baby, you know what to do.
Even stuff like that. But you know what? That sounds so straightforward, but it can be that, Keith. It can be, do you know what? I'm gonna put my head above the parapet, getting the headlines, and that can increase their value. It is simple things like that. But yeah, that was actually a really good chat. I'm buzzing now, ready for the next game. Watch this: Liverpool lose 3-1 to Leicester. I'm not doing that post-match. Tell Grizz right now, I'm not doing that post-match.
We've been the victim of enough freak results this season, man. We've had our time.
Yeah, but me and Grizz hate the King Power because I have got something against the King Power. Whenever I watch that game, I think we've done 2 watch-alongs. We lost twice, so I'm not doing it again. I'm not doing it again. But on that, guys, that was a great chat. We obviously spoke about the game, top 4 in depth. It was excellent. But now we just go on to another kind of big news topic that's came about the last couple of days. Cav, go back to yourself on this one. Firstly, what I'll do is I'll give you guys a bit of a lowdown first on it. All right. So what I'm going to discuss is the sporting director. If anyone in the chat knows how to pronounce his name, feel free to do it because me and Cav tried 4 times before we came on and couldn't do it properly.
I thought you were just about to stitch me up when you said I'm going to come to you first. I thought just say his name.
I've got a heart. I've got a heart, Cav. So it's George, and I want to say Schmadke, I think, is the sporting director that we've been linked with quite heavily last couple of days. Looks like it could happen, not confirmed yet, but there's quite a lot of this articles that saying it could be on the cards. Now, I'll give you guys a bit of a lowdown first because I actually had a chance to have a look into this earlier, and I know we've had a busy couple of days with what's happened. There's a lot going on. So, from the articles I've looked into, especially Rafa Honigstein, I think that's pronounced correctly. He had something earlier. You guys see me okay? Went blank for a second. Yeah, Rafa Honigstein, the computer switched off there. He had an article, a tweet earlier that kind of broke down his thoughts on the sporting director. Now, he's worked with he was known as a fabric of the Bundesliga, been to several teams there. The most notably, as of late, was Dusseldorf and Wolfsburg. He was quite instrumental, helped Wolfsburg get back in the Champions League. Seen here as I'd say old school traditionalist, type. That's the kind. There is rumours he's got a bit of a bad temper, made several things in the public eye. But do you know what? Old school traditionalist, good expertise in getting deals done, finding talent that's maybe not obvious, which, that sounds quite positive from myself. But I'm doing a kind of summary here. I'm not going one way or the other. I'm trying to give you an overview. This is from Rafa Honigstein. He also says that there has been links to Klopp in the past. I think they've got links to Klopp's agent, and when he was at Wolfsburg, the Bundesliga ties there as well. And from this tweet and this article, it does say that Klopp feels that he'd help with his transfer expertise, especially for the signings we're getting. And there's more. You should check that out online, but there's quite a lot on that. But yeah, that's what I've kind of got on him. There has been occasions where he has got a bit of bad temper. It's maybe caused not issues, but there's been maybe open debates or arguments in public. You can look at that either way. But that's the kind of lowdown of who he is and what he's done. Which I think the Wolfsburg one, to be fair, was done a very good job there. I will say this, I didn't even mean this, but his most notable signing, I think his most expensive signing, I may be wrong, but I think it was Weghorst for Wolfsburg. That was his most notable signing. The chat can confirm that. I think that was his most expensive signing. He has worked within more tight budgets in his previous jobs, so you can look at that how you will. But Cav, I'll come to you first. Now, just off what I've said there and your prior knowledge you had, what was your thoughts on this news?
I was about to say better late than never. That's very, very rich coming from us tonight. but that was my initial thing. We can look at the man, but let's take him out of the picture and let's concentrate on what Liverpool need to do as a club. And look, we know that our sporting director is going to be leaving. We know that this summer is going to be massively important for us in our success, what success we have next season. We know we need to make signings, and to do that, you need a recruitment team, you need Klopp on board, and you need your sporting director in the place, sat at his desk, understanding the vision of the club and of Klopp and the coaches and everybody else. And he needs to buy into that project, and he needs to start identifying targets or look at the players that we've already identified. He needs time to do that. And we're a few I think when does the window officially open? Probably should know, but I think it's at the end of June, something like that. Anyway, you'd like to be doing deals relatively soon. You'd thought you want Liverpool to do their business, earn it, i.e. in the next sort of month, towards the end of this month. So I would have likened someone to have come in sooner, as soon as maybe January, to just, like I say, find his feet, bed his way into the club, and then prepare for the summer. But he come, if he's going to come in, he'll come in and yeah, cheers. He'll come in and seemingly he'll come on board if if we believe what's been written. He has that relationship with Klopp. I don't know how strong that is, but there's somewhat of a relationship there through the agent. Klopp will, of course, have an influence and say on who comes in, and that's a really important aspect as well, because I think reading up on this guy, he's a strong character. He really truly backs what he says and believes in, and he doesn't sway from what he thinks is right, and that can often cause conflict. So you need to make sure that it's the right type of conflict. The conflict needs to be positive. I'm fine with people challenging Klopp. I'm fine with people having their own opinions, because that's what you need in a team of recruitment. You need different people to come to the table and bring different ideas and view the game differently and view business differently, because that's how you get the most positive outcome. But you have to put it across and you have to be willing to listen to others. So I just hope that he has that ability, because that's what he's going to need to be successful working with our recruitment team and Klopp. I also think if he is a quite outspoken guy, that we shouldn't really be too worried about that, because Liverpool are very, very good at keeping in-house problems in-house. Very little comes out of the club now. They've learned their lessons over time, FSG, with that. And we've seen it with transfers and stuff. Often when Liverpool are the most quiet is probably when they're doing the most amount of deals. So I'm all right with that. I think I can't say too much about his credentials. I'd have to look into him a bit more. But at least we're making, seemingly making moves. It's positive, like I say, going into the summer. And all I keep seeing when I've sort of looked him up online is that he sold Osimhen for 3 million. And whenever I mention his name, everyone throws at me, guys, just leave that, right? Just leave that one, because
everyone has mistakes, don't they?
Exactly.
Yeah,
but it's positive, because cast your mind back to World Cup December, January time. This club weren't only poorly performing on the pitch, but we had such uncertainty around ownership, people's roles. People were seemingly leaving all over the shop. We wasn't getting replacements in, and we really, really did look a bit of a mess as a club. We went from what was a really organized club that had everything really in place to be successful, to one that looked like the complete opposite. Now it's really positive to see that people are coming into these positions, because you're starting to think about the future and building towards that, and you need the backroom staff to be able to do it. So let's see if it happens. Whoever comes in that role, I believe, is going to come in with previous, and that previous is always going to have positives and negatives. I don't think you're ever going to sign a sporting director that comes in and you think, yeah, he's absolutely perfect. They're always going to come with a little bit of concern, because people make mistakes along the way. But look, for me, if the club appoint him, and the club have been good with their staff appointments over the past few years, and Klopp approves of it, then I'm comfortable in the knowledge that he's coming in. So, yeah, I've got a bit more research to do into this guy, to be honest with you.
Listen, it's absolutely, because I feel like, let's be honest, does everyone know, off the top of your head, you maybe know 5 to 10 sporting directors in the world, if we're lucky? And I feel like that's because we do this show as well, and the chat are always good at bringing up names like Paul Mitchell. We talk about Dan Ashworth, stuff like that. It's not something I think we're always improving on it, but it's not as if it's common knowledge to know every Bundesliga sporting director, to be perfectly honest. So I feel like we're all in the same boat there. You're going to look into that. What I would say as well, Kall, I think you made some really excellent points there. The one that, not the Osimhen one, I wasn't going to say that one, as everyone's going to jump on that probably. But what I would say as well, just 2 things on that, and I'll get Keith's thoughts on this. Obviously, this summer as well, we've probably got a lot of stuff in place of our targets with the recruitment team already. So I'm not really panicking on that, but I do feel like, as you said, Cav, the first point is we need that personnel in place, just so there's someone there at that desk helping those decisions, and then maybe cracking on for future transfers as well, or having a say in this summer. However, I do feel like there's as we know the rumours, they're already identified. But I think you're absolutely right with that. The other one you said about a strong character, from what I've read, I think you can look two ways. You can look for me, I don't want a yes man. I really don't. I feel like we've had this discussion as well about Klopp and how much he takes on and how much he should have. You know, he's always going to have a say, but is it a say or is it the final decision all the time? And what I mean by that is there a bit of negotiating? And I feel like that's important for us because I don't think it's been successful, as we said recently, where if a manager has every responsibility, that very rarely works out. So on that, Keith, on the strong character thing, do you feel like that's a good sign that if we do get him in, it's someone who will challenge Klopp and then can really take the reins a bit like Michael Edwards is? Not to push away Klopp's opinion, but to have a equal say on, well, I understand that, but I feel like this one's better, or I feel like, no, we should look at this. Do you know what I mean? There's actually a bit of a debate there. Do you think that's important?
I think so. I've read into this. I read a really good Athletic article kind of debunking a lot of myths that kind of sprung up on social media the minute his name got announced. I think there's a couple of things to mention in regards to the character. I think, first of all, sporting directors in different leagues have different levels of power and different levels of access. I think in the UK, by and large, sporting directors in the Premier League go about their business in the shadows, right? They don't really give interviews. They're not really in the public eye. They're not really they don't really have a microphone to their mouth. You know, in other leagues, the sporting directors wield a lot more power. Right?
Look at PSG. Campos was on the sidelines in that game, I think, against Lille earlier in the season.
Exactly. They were always talking, right? They were always giving interviews. They were always in the press. And for that reason, from what I've read of it, his character within the press was to be this kind of a bit larger than life character. I think he's but I don't think we're going to see that in the public eye. Perhaps behind the scenes, we will see somebody who believes in his convictions. And for that, it's always good to have within a team, you know, once you get to a certain, you know, plethora of leaders, you need to have those characters that believe in what they talk about. And what is he talking about? You know, who is this guy in terms of what has he achieved? You know, this is a former professional footballer who played in the Bundesliga. He was a goalkeeper that played with his feet, right? Again, revolutionary at the time, back in the early 2000s. You know, he did successfully implement teams on budgets in the modern game. So we're talking about what he's managed to achieve, you know, post 2008, 2009. He's been able to identify talent. He's been able to find the right players for the right systems and for the manager. He's been able to negotiate players, right? And that for me is the number one for me as a sporting director. Sporting directors should have a great black book of contacts, should be well in with all the agents and should be able to negotiate. That's what they're there to do. They're there to be our PR man within the market, right? You know, I don't want to hear about, it would bother me more if he had a bad reputation amongst agents and, you know, he let deals fall through all the time. That for me is not what we need. So if you bring that to the table, as far as I'm concerned, I'm quite happy with that. I think the links to Jurgen Klopp are a bit loose, if I should say the least. You know,
maybe just circumstantial, isn't it? Just,
very
you know,
circumstantial.
Yeah.
I mean, Klopp got rejected. I think at the time, they played for the same club and they didn't rate him. And Klopp even said himself, well, Key never rated me as a manager because he never signed me as a manager in any of the clubs he was sporting director at. You know, like if they were that close, then I'm sure he would have probably tried to get him into one of his clubs when Jurgen Klopp was manager.
Maybe that's a good thing though, Keith. Maybe, like, as much as it sounds,
of course.
Maybe the self-awareness, if Klopp's feeling this, is maybe I don't want someone who's that close. Maybe I want someone who there's a relationship that I don't, you know, there's something there, but it's not like we're best friends, because then that can be detrimental, can't it, going forward?
Oh, absolutely. And I think, and again, and just the last bit, again, to help those, because obviously I've seen a lot of the stuff on the platform as well, as the Victor Osimhen thing, right? Now, to everybody in the chat, did you know who Victor Osimhen was when Victor Osimhen was playing for RC Charleroi? Did you know who Victor Osimhen really was when he was playing for Lille? No. So he let him go to the Belgian team, right? And we didn't know who he was. The Belgian team sold him to Lille, and we didn't really know who he was. Lille then sold him to Napoli, and he exploded. So to like label the Victor Osimhen sell on him, yeah, I mean, come on. I mean, that's Captain Hindsight 3000.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Like, no one saw that coming a mile off. That's like saying that, you know, Mo Salah, when he went from Chelsea to Fiorentina, why didn't no one buy Mo Salah at the time when he was down in the dumps? So, I think there was a few kind of tags labeled at this manager, this sporting director, that I think have been a bit unfair. I think, again, big character. What I don't want to see is I don't want to see interviews. I don't want to see leaks to the press. I don't want to see him on TV. I want to see him doing his job. I want to see him helping Klopp to continue to cultivate an environment that's for the benefit of Liverpool. And most importantly, I want a sporting director that's coming in off the qualities and the credentials that FSG identify in people of these positions throughout their time. And they've been, like Cav said, they've been very good at making these type of appointments. So as long as they haven't decided to stray away from how they identify the right person, and as long as they haven't just been blown away by a PowerPoint presentation, Brendan Rodgers, but as long as they've not been blown away by a PowerPoint presentation and they've actually, done some genuine research, I'm very intrigued to see what he brings to the table. I am encouraged by the fact that his success has been success in modern football. We're not talking about a sporting director who had success, in 2002. You know what I mean? Like, he's helped build clubs on shoestring budgets. So, as I said, I want him to work in his shadows, and hope he's going to be a success if he does come in. I think it's time. Again, I wish he would have come in early, as Cap said, because he could have been key to this rebuild. But the defense is going to need rebuilding over the next year or so. So there's going to be plenty of opportunity for him to get his teeth sunk into this.
Absolutely, and I think that's actually added that very well, Keith, because I think it is an interesting one when you look at it that way. I think what you said about the shoestring budget, you can look at that two ways. You can think, see if we got someone in who's had lots of money. Let's be realistic. You're probably not going to get that. You're going to have a budget. You're going to have more than that, but you're not going to have PSG money, Man City money, Newcastle money. You're not going to have that. And maybe me and Cav, we spoke about this recently, and Evan as well. There's signings out there. Why have we not found them in the last 2 years? It always seems to be we're linked with the ones that a lot of other people are linked with. And by the way, I'm not talking necessarily about the McAllister ones that you have to make them, but there can be deals where it's like to add depth to the squad. There is diamonds out there. It's not always like for nothing, but you can look at Brighton, but it's not just Brighton. There's several players you're looking at now, like Caicedo was available for 4 million. They don't always have to come in and start. But if you've got someone who's had that model in the past where they've had to find those gems, a bit like what we done a couple of years ago, I feel like it would be useful to have that. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying realistically we're Liverpool, they're going to put the price up a bit, but there's definitely deals to be done out there. You've seen that recently. There's lots of good finds. And if this person, as you say, Keith, has got that contact book of different continents of that, it may be really interesting to get someone who comes in who's a bit maybe not as well known as others, so he can do his business more subtly. And I feel like that could be quite helpful, actually. And if he is not afraid to tell Klopp, I don't think that's the right move. I feel like this would be the best way to go. And then there's actually a conversation, because I think that, as well as finalising the deals, is very important, as Keith said. Any from both of you guys, any last thoughts on the sporting director he's wanted to discuss?
No, what I'd just say is I think over the past day or so, I think the Wolfsburg chairman come out and sort of gave a bit of an appraisal of him, and it was quite positive. It was saying that he's personality-wise, yes, he's a strong guy, but he's incredibly intelligent. People get along with him. He's got a good sense of humour, and that all bodes well for a man that's trying to get deals over the line in negotiations. So that's positive. And also, he said that he did a lot of work behind the scenes for Wolfsburg that, it won't be spoken about and people won't really find out, but it really assisted Wolfsburg at the time, because I think they spent a couple of years fighting relegation and they managed to have a successful period by avoiding that. So quite often, you should really listen to people's appraisals that have previously employed the person, I believe, because it's very easy once somebody's moved on to turn around and put blame on them, actually. Wolfsburg are a club that are not winning the Bundesliga. They're not flying high in Europe, so it would be very, very easy when asked the question to go, he could have done better here, he could have done better there, and take a lot of onus off their current situation and their current personnel. But actually to come out and say, he did well, he did this, he did that's positive, and that's really what you want to hear. Because all we can do really as fans is listen to other people and judge him off the signings he's made. quite honestly. And even then, we're assuming that, you know, that it was his signing or he had a big say, and it wasn't actually the manager that really wanted somebody, or the recruitment team identified it. So there's positive things coming out, and I'm sure as he gets sort of closer to sort of looking, you know, signing and joining Liverpool, we'll find out more about him. But overall, it's positive to see that the club are employing people, and we're seemingly getting, you know, people in place that are here for the future, and that's really positive, because it's about building that strong structure which Liverpool have had for so long, and we need again.
And I echo that last thing with Cav. You know, the most important thing, and something that worried us a lot, especially as we came out of Christmas into January with all the news of the sale, Ward stepping down, results not going our way. Are we ever going to find a system again that's going to suit us? Are we ever going to evolve with these new players? You know, I feel like now we've kind of, you know, slowly started to put all of these doubts to bed. And going into a new season with everything in place, the players that Klopp wants, the sporting director, FSG, ultimately, you know, saying that, hey, you know, we are going to be in the club for the long haul. I think all of that security buys us a real platform to go into next season and really take on. So, yeah, you know, if this is the man that they want, let's get it on. End of the day, getting rid of a sporting director is not as difficult as getting rid of a manager anyway. So if it doesn't work out, then, hey, do you know what I mean? See you later. But, you know,
see you later. I love that. See you later.
I feel the same. But, you know, I think you know, time will tell. But the most important thing is that, you know, the club look to kind of have a plan again. And that's the biggest compliment I can give right now.
Yeah, do you know what? I thoroughly enjoyed that chat, guys. It's good. And as Cav said, and yourself, Keith, I think we'll find out more next couple of weeks, especially if it gets to advanced stage. There'll probably more that comes out, more articles, more opinions on this on George. So it'll be interesting. I noticed I missed the second name there, because definitely until that's signed on a contract, I'm not learning that. But on it, we've only got a few minutes, guys, because we'll finish it in 90 minutes. Just to remind the chat, thanks for all your input as always. Just to smash a like if you can, please. I think we're just nearly at 100, so it's much appreciated. And thanks for all the comments as usual. Just lastly, because Cav had a little note about this, we're not going to talk about the mini break, Cav, which I know you wanted to, but about the new kits. And I know you wanted to mention this, so the floor is yours to discuss the new kits, mate, that have been released last week.
There's not much to say. We chucked a white collar on and some white sleeves, and that's it. Yeah, spend your hard-earned money, and we go again.
Yeah. Here's 100 quid, mate. You just changed the collar.
yeah. But I thought, look, the kit's the kit. Everyone will like it, or you won't like it. I personally like quite simplistic designs. I think it's a bit lazy from Nike, but it is what it is. I thought the promo was really quite cool, though. You know, I thought the shoot was quite good and what have you. And I know you said I can't mention the break, but Liverpool right now are in Spain, and I'm sad like this. I'm sad like this because I love to see.
I'm not stopping you mention it. You can mention it.
I like because these players are great, right? And I love this set of players that we currently have. I think we will look back at this era under Klopp and think how successful it was, but we'll look back and think what brilliant people we have representing our club as well. And I love to see them obviously play, but I also like it when we get to see these off-field sort of stuff and insight into not their lives, but a little bit. And also now they're away. I think they're in Spain somewhere. I can't remember exactly where they are. But yeah, I like it. I'm this sad. I will look at an image that shows Salah with Thiago and Nunez, and I'm like, oh, Nunez is integrating. That's how sad I am.
I love that. Shout out to them. They had the bronzer. I saw the bottle of bronzer on the side. I respect that highly. Yeah. Clearly, someone wants to get that tan quick as well.
Yeah, no, I just laugh because you'd say that. I'm trying to work out how Andrew Robertson and Mo Salah are like very good friends, how they communicate. That's what I am. That's what I'm, because they actually are. You can see when Mo scores or whatever, they're actually very good friends. And I always laugh that he must be very good at articulating when he's talking to him.
What I would say actually, what I would say is Liverpool. Hopefully, we're going through a transition. Obviously, there's new players into the squad, new players from different leagues. Some don't speak the language, Alan Nunez, and there's going to be things like this that are really, really important for building this squad up. And it's a team game, and it comes back to yes, you can have all the ability, but you have to connect as people on the pitch and off the pitch to really win these top honours. And so trips like this, when they can do it, is vitally important. And also, we might even see it at points next season. You remember the West Brom draw where we get everybody, all the players on the line, and we go over to the away fans and we acknowledge them. And we're all taking the mick out of, and then seemingly years later, we've got the most harmonious squad that plays brilliant football together and goes on to be successful. There might be more stuff that to come for that, because we are rebuilding this squad. And what I would say is, you've seen it once with Klopp, how it can pan out. Just trust in it again. And that's why I like to see these little things that the group do together, because I think that's really positive for what you're going to see on the pitch then.
Well, yeah, no, great point. But yeah, honestly, guys, thanks very much. Thanks to Steve as well. He had to shoot off earlier. But yeah, top show. And yeah, I think we've covered everything. Yeah, but it's been a great one. Big up the chat as always. Big up you two and Steve. Fantastic. And yeah, we'll be plenty of shows this week. I think Grizz, I'll let that on social media, but there's several shows. I think there'll obviously be Premier League show as well. He's got several happening on the channel. So smash the likes, subscribe if you've not, and put the notification bell on. Remember that one as well, Cav. Look, I'm doing well now. But yeah.
Notification bell.
Yeah, notification bell. Do it. But anyway, thanks again, Keith. Thanks, Cav. And to everyone, we'll see you next week, which should be on the Sunday. But that was the Monday night RedFellas. Should be a one-off, but it was a good one. It was a great one. Thanks very much, guys, and take care. See you soon.